chaos is just going to keep on growing and growing and growing until the countries of the world call out to the United Nations and say, please step in, bring your United Nation troops in, and please help us. Or there could be false flags, or there probably is already, false flags or whatever, where there's groups doing all this stuff because the United Nations already knows about it, getting the governments to want to be on board with their big plan. And then the governments, of course, will call in the United Nations, and the people will clamor for the United Nations to come and help us because our country's gone completely into insanity. I believe that the United Nations is already doing this. I believe that they're part of controlling ISIS, and all these things are allowed to be there because they're a necessary evil to get us to call for the government's help. As long as there's a big bad guy, there's always a government that we need. There's always a government to defend us. If we don't have a big person to defend us, which is the government, then we won't have really a need for them. They want to be needed so that they can get control over the people and move on forward with their depopulation program, because that's pretty much what this is all leading to. This is all leading to depopulation. And it's talked about even in the Bible, okay? The head of all this is going to be Satan, of course. And it's really the Antichrist and the false prophet and all that stuff that's leading toward this one world order and their order out of chaos. So that's really the big picture. With that, let's get back to the protests and all that stuff and who the money comes from to fund this stuff.
Every life matters, and that is why this issue is so important. Black lives matter, white lives matter, all lives matter.
Black lives matter!
How long before Black Lives Matter protesters are chanting George Soros' divide and conquer scheme is what matters? The Washington Times reports liberal billionaire George Soros has built a business empire that dominates across the ocean in Europe while forging a political machine powered by nonprofit foundations that impacts American politics and policy, not unlike what he did with MoveOn.org. In all, Mr. Soros gave at least $33 million in 1 year to support already established groups that embolden the grassroots, on-the-ground activists in Ferguson, according to the most recent tax filings of his nonprofit Open Society Foundations. The sad fact is, one of the 30 richest people in the world, not an American civil rights leader, is funding a divide and conquer movement that has disrupted political speeches, places of business, and the real progress Americans have made in the United States regarding race relations. Meanwhile, Soros has fueled the division in Ukraine.
George Soros admitting he's behind the open border move and the illegals pouring in, admitting he's behind Ukraine, saying, I did it, which I think he's taking too much credit. He's a big part of it. Saying they're part of the Arab Spring and turning loose all these groups. On every front, George Soros.
If it was a racist nation, we would not have had the top guy ahead of law as a black man, Eric Holder, and now Loretta Lynch, another black woman. We would not have the head of the United Nations. It was Susan Rice. You would not have a Secretary of State as Condoleezza Rice or Colin Powell or others. So let's not call it a racist nation. If you want to point the finger, point it at Obama. Point it at Holder. Point it at that low-life man who never convicted one head of the white shoe boys. Too white for you, Eric?
And we are distracted, just as the Cloward Piven strategy would have us. Of course, all lives matter.
All lives matter. And I'm a black guy. Hey, all lives matter.
Of course, chanting pigs in a blanket will lead to execution of police.
Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon. Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon.
I don't think chanting or singing chants that are basically promoting killing police officers is peaceful.
And of course, inciting violence for the sake of violence is a trap.
I would prefer to be remembered as a person who was part of this resolution. Kids being born in this country, and we have to leave a legacy for them, something for them so it'll be easier for them to deal with problems, issues that come up, just like people that has made a movement towards peace and nonviolence all the way up to this point. It's important that we keep that going.
Ultimately, the 13 million black babies that Soros supported being wiped out and the 41% welfare spending increase Obama has brought us are the real steps backwards. And those ensnared by the violent elite engineered faux rights movement will eventually find themselves eager participants in a divide and conquer takedown scheme of the American dream, funded by the very people responsible for the hostile environment the Black Lives Matter movement is fighting to escape from.
All lives matter. That police officer that got killed by that black man because that black man listened to what y'all was saying by going out and killing white people. That police officer's life mattered. That 9-year-old girl in Ferguson, Missouri, that got shot in the head while she was doing her homework in a drive-by shooting that none of y'all protested, her life mattered.
So governments like to split people up, categorize human beings, divide so they can conquer them. There's people that don't even think that they can see the world because they need permission to see the planet Earth.
John Bound for Infowars.com.
Now, I could go on and on and on about how George Soros is this big bad guy, and we all kind of know that there's global elites that are running the world and running these small groups and hiding behind them and using them to take down the basic freedoms that people already have, And they're really moving toward a one-world system where there's a one-world religion, one-world government, and all this, and there's going to be a new currency and all this stuff. And it's all a bunch of crazy stuff, and I'm not trying to make you fear anything, as I say every single show. My point is, I'm pointing out the wizard behind the curtain here. It's really just another trick. I mean, they only have tricks that they can prolong their movement as long as they lie and keep lying, keep lying and keep lying and keep lying and keep lying and hiding behind something else and hiding behind something else, and it just keeps going and going and going. That's what dishonest people do. They keep hiding and going and they keep the lie alive. They can't live without the lie. They can't live without deception and mayhem and chaos and all kinds of crazy stuff. But people in general, I don't think want that. But the problem is there's people that can be bought off. That's always been the problem for human race. There's always been the problem that people can be bought off. When they get bought off, it turns into this people standing in front of the freeway saying, "Oh, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter." And we're going to cry about it and stomp our feet. And by the way, while they're blocking that freeway, there's probably an ambulance trying to get through, and that might have a black guy in it. So if Black Lives Mattered, they wouldn't block the freeway where people could get home so that they could, be safe. And plus, people get off work. They don't want to have to sit there and wait. And only the people in the front row on that freeway are really going to know anything about what's going on. So you're really talking to the first 30 people, and then your movement basically is a waste of time. Yeah, Black Lives Matter. You know what? If Black Lives Matter, then why don't you go down to the Planned Parenthood? And unfortunately, if you look at statistics, more black people abort their babies than any other race. So maybe you should stop that if Black lives really matter. Okay? That's something they should really invest in stopping. But they won't because of who's funding them. The person who funds them also funds Planned Parenthood. And they'll never, ever stand up against that. You'll never hear it. That's not the talking points that the media wants you to know about. The media wants you to know about a race war. And how white people are guilty because, we had slaves. And let me think about this now. When was the last time I had a slave? When was the last time my dad had a slave? When was the last time my grandfather had a slave? When was the last time his dad had a slave? And so on. I don't remember having a slave. And on the other side, I don't remember any black people being slaves in that period, in all those generations. So if you think about it, we don't owe nobody nothing, and they don't deserve nothing because we haven't done anything against each other. In fact, I haven't had a problem with black people. I haven't had a problem with white people. I haven't had a problem with any race, really. I've had problems with certain people in those groups. I've had problems with certain people in my own race. I've had problems with all kinds of people, but I'm not going to take that whole entire race and go, oh, all of you are bad, because I know that's not true. Just common logic shows that. I mean, here's the thing. We got a black president. I disagree with the president. I don't care about his skin color. I really don't. I hated George W. Bush, or any of the Bushes for that matter. I hated them. I can't believe that people actually believe that these people were Christians. They were in Skull and Bones, a secret society, and Freemasonry. They're in all these strange secret groups. And their great-grandfather made money off the Nazi war, for crying out loud. What a Christian! So, whatever. It's just ridiculous. And that's a Republican, by the way. Oh, Republicans do no wrong. Oh, really? I don't pick sides. I don't choose to be in a gang, okay? I don't care what you want to call it. It's a gang. Because if you choose, oh, I'm a Republican, now I'm part of that gang. Or I'm a Democrat, I'm part of that gang. Or I'm a, whatever. I don't care about, all I care about is living free and being able to go and do what I please as long as it's within reason and not killing people. Living peaceably with my neighbors. That's what matters in this life. People are so sickening. I mean, people are being bought off left and right to go, oh, I'm offended by myself because I'm white and Black Lives Matter. Really? There's actual white people. Well, I don't really call them people. I don't look at them that way because they're so sickening. I mean, yeah, I'm a Christian, but they really get me so angry. Because I'm looking at these people, and they don't even know what sex they are. They're walking around acting like they barely can talk. They slur. They're just, their phone's up to their head all the time. They're texting all the time. They're just looking down at their phone. They're just brain dead. And these are the people who have the knowledge and awareness to make decisions whether or not the cops are bad or the people or white people are bad or whatever. Really? And all cops are bad? Really? Let me play this video from the news from in my state, from Minnesota, recently, because I witnessed this just the other day.
A surprise roadblock this morning for drivers in the Twin Cities.
Around 7:30, dozens of protesters stood together on southbound Interstate 35W at the Mississippi River Bridge. Traffic backed up for miles until the protesters were eventually arrested.
Ashley Roberts saw this all firsthand. Good afternoon, Ashley.
Allie, things are back to normal on 35W after this morning's protest shut down traffic for almost 2 hours. Community members are demanding justice in the death of Philando Castile, the St. Paul man shot and killed by police last week. While the investigation continues, protesters made it clear their efforts will not stop. Early Wednesday morning on the 35W bridge, rush hour traffic stops and a protest begins. A coalition of non-black allies, as they call themselves, shut down the southbound lanes in support of the Black Lives Matter movement.
These white people understand that, we're going through something. Black people are going through something in this country, and they want to fight to make a difference, and I think that's beautiful.
They're calling for justice in the death of Philando Castile, and in their words, condemning the ongoing killings of black men by police in the Twin Cities and across the country.
It's not just St. Paul.